Good afternoon and hello, everyone. This is WendyY Bailey, and this is the bonus episode of the Profitable Coaching Conversation Show with WendyY Bailey. So every week in the 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern hour, I go live across multiple platforms. I'm live on Facebook, on my page, on my profile. I'm also live in my private Facebook community at profitablecoachingsociety.com. You can also watch me on LinkedIn and on YouTube, my personal YouTube channel, WendyY Bailey, and the Profitable Coaching Conversation Show YouTube channel. If you're here on Facebook, be sure to grant StreamYard permission to actually tell me who you are if you're making comments. So definitely be sure to do that. If for some reason you miss all of the episode, you want to catch it, the replay will be there. And you can also go to Profitable Coaching Conversations, and catch all of the episodes. As of this episode, this is episode number 76. So there are tons and tons and tons of content and information, guest appearances, guests really sharing and adding value that you can go back and soak up as well. If you're catching me here, be sure that if you're watching the replay, you type hashtag replay in the comments below. And, that way I know that you were here, you saw the episode. Of course, if you have any questions, you can actually ask your questions as well in the comments below, whatever platform that you're on. So today's episode is called What to Say to Close More Clients into Your Coaching Business. Now, I want to just do a little bit of a disclaimer. I rarely use the word close in my conversations with my clients about selling. I prefer the word conversion, but for the sake of simplicity, I just wanted to use it here because I want you guys to know that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how do you convert more clients? How do you close more business? What are some things that you can say that will really make the difference and increase and improve your conversion rates? So let's jump in. When we talk about conversion and closing, I want to be sure that you understand that initially, for the purpose of this discussion, I'm talking about your one-on-one session, that strategy session, that sample coaching session, that initial consultation that you hold with a potential client where you extend an offer and invite them to do business with you. So in the context of this one-on-one conversation, it's so important that you understand that there are things you want to say before the session, there are things you want to say during the session, and there are things that you definitely want to say to move to the transaction phase of that session where you're inviting them to work with you. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to understand that when you start off this one-on-one conversation, it's an opportunity for you to set the stage, right? You get to preview what's coming, and that includes later on, I'm going to shift into a transaction mode, which may feel different than we started, but I want to make sure you know it's coming right now. So you're setting the stage and you're letting the potential client know, I'm going to ask you about working with me. I'm going to extend an offer to you. So it's important that you say something that previews the shift to the transaction that's going to be coming later. The other thing that you want to be sure is you have to ask for permission. I believe that permission is underused in all of coaching sessions, okay? In all of not just your new client conversations or potential client conversations, but in your existing client conversations where you're actually talking to clients in their session. Permission really paves the way for respect. The client knows that you respect where she is, what's happening with her, because you ask for permission. Permission also secures a greater bond with your client because when you ask for permission, you're letting the client know I care, right? I care enough. I don't want to assume it's okay. I'm not going to presume to know what you really believe is okay. Let me ask for permission and let you know I care enough to ask, right? So when you go through your preview where you're talking about the transaction and how you're going to shift to that in your transaction, what you want to be sure happens is you ask for permission as part of that. So the language of that may go like this. Um, I'm glad you're here today. And what I want to make sure you know is I believe that we will talk more about how I can support you. But I want to be sure that you know we're going to do some other things first. And there will come a time in the session where I will shift and we'll talk about what it takes for you to hire me. Is that okay? It's that simple. Outline the transaction that you're going to be shifting to a transaction mode, and then you can ask for permission. Is that okay? Do I have your permission to shift into talking about what it takes to hire me? You need to develop your own language around it, but you've got to have permission. So you say things that reflect your permission, your desire for permission. So that's number 1 and 2. The second one, the third one is to make sure you transition into the transaction phase and your client knows that you're making that shift. You've coached them, you've given them some really valuable information, you've poured into them, you've given them a nugget of what, that they can walk away with and feel like they've really gotten something from the coaching session. So it's time now for you to shift and transition into that transaction phase. So when you transition, you've got to say, we are transitioning to a different phase in this conversation. And a great way to do that is to ask for permission. Are you ready for us to talk about what it takes to hire me as your coach? That's one way you can look at it. You may also say, okay, it's time for us to talk about, the sales part of it. It's time for me to share my offer with you. Are you okay that we're moving now into talking about what it takes to hire me? You're asking for permission and you're setting the stage so that it's not like a hard shift, so to speak. It prepares the client for what's to come next, and they're open, they're understanding, they're clear about where you are and what's happening. I remember years ago, in 2006 to be exact, I was coaching with a group of coaches at a conference, and the conference host had made arrangements with the event venue to actually have piping and drape around each coach's little cubicle area. So it was black curtains in an area of the conference that wasn't really highly lit, like it wasn't bright lights like the rest of it. And because of the piping and drape, there was some semblance of privacy. There was a real, way of looking at being in the session, not just for the coach, but for the client. And I was coaching this person who ultimately became a client for me. And I said to him, we had been very present in our coaching. I knew that he had gotten a nugget from what we had talked about in our coaching. And I said, okay, so are you ready for me to talk to you about what it takes to hire me as your coach? He said, yes. And as soon as I shifted into that, he said, wow, I feel like we've been like in a dark room and all of a sudden somebody just shed light on it, just shined a bright light and everything. So it can be something startling for people, but if you don't do it, if you don't say, here's the transition, if you don't ask for permission, it's worse than a shift that seems far apart from where you want to be. Okay. So be sure that you ask for permission in that transition phase. The last point I want to give you is when you are trying to increase your closing ratios, you're trying to increase your conversion rates, you've got to be able to ask for the business. And sometimes it's important that when you make your offer, you understand that it is not time for you to continue talking about all the things you can do for the client. It's not time for you to talk about how much more they're going to get. It is time for you to be quiet. The acronym that I learned several years ago, and I want to give it to you, is WAIT. Why am I talking? Why am I talking? That says to you, and what it should say to you is, it's time for you to actually be quiet, calmly just think and listen, okay? And you'll hear the objections. You'll hear what the client is thinking. You'll hear any thoughts that are going on with the client. Then you can address them by coaching them through whatever objections surface. You can coach them and have conversations around what their thoughts and concerns may be. If you're talking, you can't hear that. If you can't hear that, then what's happening is you're potentially positioning yourself to lose a sale. Okay. So be sure that you are quiet. You make your offer, you ask for the business, and then you're quiet. Then you're quiet. It's not time to say something, it's time to not say something. So this has been a special bonus episode of the Profitable Coaching Conversation Show. Be sure that you connect with me in my private Facebook community at profitablecoachingsociety.com. At profitablecoachingsociety.com. It's a growing community of coaches and speakers who are there. And, I'm doing a lot to support the folks who are there around systems and tools and strategies and staying motivated and encouraged and just a lot of stuff. So it's a great place for you to be. The other thing I want to say again is if for some reason you missed any part of this episode or you'd like to look at other episodes, you can go to profitablecoachingconversations.com. That's profitablecoachingconversations.com. You can watch the episodes or you can listen to the episodes on that website as well. I'm WendyY Bailey, and I'm so glad that you were here, whether you were live or you're watching the replay. Be sure to subscribe, review, like, so that I know you were here. And I'll look forward to being on another episode where I can share more good stuff with you in the future. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.